minutes. Ms. Rodgers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Turk, your testimony outlines Department of Energy's responsibilities for preparing and responding to hazards, to risks, and to threats to the delivery of our nation's energy and power, and this is useful. The core mission of DOE is, after national security, is energy security, and we must maintain reliability and affordability. I would like to ask, is Department of Energy making recommendations to the administration on the risk of American disengagement from fossil fuels and shifting geopolitical energy power to our adversaries, Russia and China?
Well, thanks, Ranking Member, for the question. And I think just as you said, and I don't think anyone would disagree with this, we need to do three things at the same time. We need to make sure we have affordability for all of our American citizens, all of our American people, and we spend an awful lot of time on that. We need to make sure there's security, national security, energy security, and we also need to make sure that we're promoting and pushing on the sustainability side of things and making sure that we have a proactive, ambitious, aggressive plan to reduce our carbon impact so we don't have the impacts of extreme weather that we've seen all across the country this past year. Over $145 billion worth of damage caused by that.
Excuse me, Mr. Turk. Are you making recommendations to the administration on the geopolitical impact of shifting from fossil fuels to China and Russia?
So what we've been recommending all along is to both make sure that we're moving as ambitiously as we can on this clean energy transition, to have a wide variety.
Okay, I'm going to run out of time here very quickly. Excuse me. I'm going to move on. I have a letter I'd like to submit to the record to that I wrote to Secretary Granholm to oversee what DOE is doing to reduce dependence upon Chinese minerals and help develop domestic supply chains for these minerals. And I ask that this document be entered into the record. And I know, Mr. Turk, you have not reviewed this letter. I'd like to ask at another time for you to come and brief the members of this committee on the plans to develop more secure and domestic supplies for critical minerals and technologies to meet the goals that you just outlined, okay? It's going to be very important that we are developing domestic supplies. Otherwise, we're going to be dependent upon China, and they'll shut us down. The previous administration identified vulnerabilities in the bulk power system chain from China and other adversarial actors. It issued an order to block components that put critical electric infrastructure at risk. This administration immediately rescinded that order and proposed a renewed electricity supply chain initiative seeking information from stakeholders. Mr. Turk, you mentioned a set of 100-day sprints in your testimony. Is the electric supply chain security part of this sprint, and what's the status of your work to block components from adversaries that put our electric system at risk?
So this president has made supply chains and critical minerals an absolute top priority, and we're spending an awful lot of time at the Department of Energy. We've got now a dozen in-depth exercises, reviews, studies looking at the full supply chain, and completely agree with you, we need to diversify supply chains, including on critical minerals, including for batteries, doing more domestic production, more domestic efforts all across the supply chain, and working with reliable allies all across the country. So we'd be more than happy to come back up, myself personally, others from the department, and give this committee a full briefing and get your guidance and thoughts on how we can make sure we work together.
Okay, I look forward to working with you on that. Thank you very much. China overwhelmingly dominates the global critical mineral supply chain, including 90% of silicon wafers used in solar panels, 80% of the rare earth minerals that go into wind turbines and electric vehicle motors. Do you have concerns that relying upon Chinese supply chains for energy resources and technologies could make our grid less reliable? And secondly, recent comments from an MBA owner made headlines over the weekend because of his assertion that there is a low level of interest in the ongoing genocide of the Uyghurs in China. Republican members on this committee have been highlighting the fact that much of the supply chains for wind, solar, batteries in China are made by forced labor of the Uyghurs. In fact, we offered an amendment during the Energy and Commerce markup of the Build Back Better to prohibit the use of products made by slave labor, but that was voted down. I know you've highlighted environmental justice as a priority for you at the Commission. Do you think that the United States should be using technologies, including wind, solar, and batteries produced in China with forced labor?
So completely agree with you, Madam Ranking Member, on the concerns on the China front. On the forced labor side, and on having a surety of supply over time, including for these minerals that we'll need even more of going forward. And we and the administration, working hand in hand with Congress, have to get serious about actually putting in place the ability to build up our domestic manufacturing. Solar PV manufacturing is a great example. We at the Department of Energy, our national labs, funded by the Congress, funded by the American citizens, did all the groundbreaking work to get solar PV technology in the place that it has gotten to. And what we didn't do is follow through to have the incentives, make sure that we've got in place the manufacturing infrastructure to take advantage of that. And now all of that's moved to China and a few other countries around the world. We need to have incentives, just like included the SEMA legislation that's included in the Build Back Better agenda, to actually have incentives to make sure that we can do the domestic production that we need to. So happy to work hand in hand and make sure that we've got a series of incentives, a real plan to build domestic manufacturing, including on supply chains, including in all of these raw supplies and other materials we get from China. It's not good to be beholden to one country for these supplies, absolutely.
We need domestic, the steel workers in Spokane, Washington told me that a real infrastructure package would have included mining in the United States of America. I'm anxious for that recommendation to come from the administration to unleash. If we're really going to do this, we need to be honest about what it's going to take. I do look forward to working with you too. Thank you.